and welcome to WPS News. I'm Amir Champong.
And I'm Mackenzie O'Brien. We're students from Doherty Memorial High School.
We would like to share some news from around the Worcester School District. Mackenzie, what do we have for our first story?
Well, it's an important time for seniors who are taking the next step in their lives. College admissions counselors from Worcester colleges, along with Framingham and Vicksburg State University, met one-on-one with Doherty students to assist them with the college admissions process.
Some students were even accepted on the spot. Let's see how it went.
Today's event at Doherty is the College Decision Day. It's actually on the spot. Colleges come here to give students an answer if they're accepted or what their path could be. Seniors meet one-on-one and they go over their transcript, they ask them questions, and it gives them an opportunity to have some decisions under their belt as they're going along their admissions process.
As an admissions counselor at a four-year institution, I actually am getting some student transcripts today, meeting with students who have currently applied as well as students who are looking to apply, and just talking with them about their career goals, potential plans for next year, how Framingham State might be the best fit for them, both financially and academically. And for those who have been admitted, just seeing where they're at right now with their senior year, and for those that haven't, seeing how I can best support them in the application process.
What's your name?
I'm Ethan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I went into the room and she was actually very nice. I expected the college advisors to be a little strict at times, I can't even lie. But she was actually really nice. She was really accepting and she talked to me like a real person. It was really nice. It actually made me really happy to see that.
It feels really nice, you know, like it's nice to know what the people there are like and what it's going to be like there.
Meeting with them today is definitely a way for them to realize we're human, we're here to support them. Asking questions is not a bother to us, and that we're here to support them every step of the way, whether it's for them to learn more about our institutions or how to best support them in making sure that their applications are complete, and also just learning more about our institutions and figuring out their next steps.
I feel a lot of things about college. It's very nerve-wracking, I can't lie. I'm sure I'll be able to get through it. You know, I want to make my parents proud and stuff like that.
This event is really important for Doherty seniors. It really is a time when we can make sure they're on track for a post-secondary plan.
North High School enters the spotlight hosting their biannual art showcase. It's a huge production where students display their art pieces, put on a theater show, and also a concert to open families in the community.
Visual arts is a great way for students to express their thoughts and emotions. Let's walk through the gallery.
So the North High Art Show is a showcase of our students' artwork. I encourage every single student I have to submit at least one piece.
It's cool to have young artists be represented by their school. Like other students can come through, see like, oh, that's a talented young artist. Look at that, that's someone's artwork they made with their hands. You can see each of these little details made by hand and tool. I feel inspired to do more work because of the feedback that I get on my own work. It makes me feel like I can let out my imagination.
Art is a very good way to relieve all emotion, and I think that this is an amazing way to show what I want people to feel.
I think a lot of them feel really proud and really happy when they receive, that great feedback and realize that their art is relating to other people, that it's making an impact, and it's, no longer just personal to them, but then it becomes something other people can enjoy too.
This is my art piece. It is inspired by the director Tim Burton. This is an illustrated depiction of what it feels like to look at somebody who has no idea who they are and is still trying to find their identity, which is also something that commonly high schoolers go through.
I definitely feel like it makes me feel a lot more empowered to be able to share with the community what I've created based on what I've lived through. My mom passed away the day I finished this project, literally the day of. So what I decided was I'd dedicate it to it. It's a hard experience to live through, and this adds happiness and delight into somebody's day. That's what I want.
I think it's a great way for students to be themselves, try something new that they might have not tried before, be open to taking risks and enjoying the creative process.
Mackenzie, did you know all middle and high schools in the Worcester Public Schools now have climate and culture assistants?
Of course, they've made such an impact on the staff and student body.
Recently, the WPS news team had the opportunity to speak to a couple of these staff members to share more about their role in our schools.
We work collaboratively to ensure a climate and culture here at the school where the students can have a great learning experience and the teachers can have a great working experience or working environment.
So as a CC specialist, we're kind of like the bridge between student and staff. A lot of times you'll have kids that maybe they're having a hard time, they cut class. You don't know what's going on outside of school, but if you have a good relationship with them, they'll talk to you. They're more apt to come to you and tell you like, hey, Mr. Moisen, this is what's going on. Kind of figure out how you can help them out. Do you bring them to a guidance counselor? Do you let them talk to you? Do you bring them back to their class? How can you get them to help themselves out?
In my experience talking to the climate and culture staff, it's very easy to speak to them. They're very welcoming, they're very outgoing. It's more of a positive environment. I've noticed less students wandering in the hallways. There's not a lot of conflicts now between students. They help us if we're having like any emotional distraught, any social issues with our peers or with our teachers.
Gotten close with a lot of students and I could tell when they're off. And then sometimes if I see them and I'll say, hey, what's going on? And sit down and say, can I talk to you about it? And they'll talk to me. And just them saying, they would say, Mister, how did you know? And I said, well, I can see you're different. And a lot of kids say, thank you for seeing that you can tell who I am and my personality. And a lot of outside stuff is what mostly affects the kids in school. So understanding and where they're coming from, what's going on. And sometimes let them know that I was them when I was younger. And I just think that this should be put in throughout all the schools in the state that have a lot of urban kids, just to see that someone else is there for them that cares.
Bill Murphy, a Worcester Public Schools graduate, gave an inspirational talk to Forest Grove Middle School students.
He recently ran 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days to raise money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
That's amazing. Let's listen to what advice he shared with students.
You know, the 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days came across, it felt like a sign, you know, change the world. But I wasn't gonna do it for myself. And we've been affiliated with Make-A-Wish since 2006, where we've made a donation in business to Make-A-Wish every single month. That helped my why. We called it Running the World for Wishes. I want the kids to understand that they're capable of way more than they think they are, because, you know, we put limits on everything. Well, what's realistic? You know, what's unrealistic? But what is super stretch? Is it realistic to go run 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days today? No, but could you do a half a marathon? Identify what's important to you, and it has to be your goal. It can't be what someone tells you you should be doing, or what you think you should be doing. And I was a kid that came from nothing. And I had to work my way through school, like zero, no help. It was grit, grind, persistence, consistency, positive attitude. And then when you do give back, the world opens its arms to you with all kinds of opportunities. And that is the truth. And I want kids to know that, you know, it starts small, and it's about giving not money, but your time, energy, and kindness, which is all free. And you start giving there, then everything else will take care of itself.
And for our last segment, let's take a look at a reoccurring feature called Ask the Superintendent.
For this episode, a fellow student and I discussed with Dr. Mernarez how she ensures that students' voices are included in decision-making and what advice she would give to her high school self.
In addition, her first impressions of the new Doherty building and how the decision is made when we have a snow day or 2-hour delay.
Hello, and welcome to the Doherty Edition of Ask the Superintendent. Each episode, students from the Superintendent Student Advisory Council come up with their own questions to better get to know our superintendent, Dr. Ramirez. I am Mohammed, and this is Melina, and we're students at Doherty Memorial High School. Our first question is, in addition to the Student Advisory Council, how do you ensure that students' voices and perspectives are included in decision-making within the district? How are you providing opportunities for all students to have a voice and share their ideas?
So, great question. And, you know, student voice is so important. When I was in school, they never asked us anything. We just went about it. And that was the way we thought it was supposed to be. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just as you learn more, you get better, right? And so superintendent student advisory is one aspect, and then we've asked our high school principals to have a model similar to start doing it at their schools. Some are faster about it than others, but we're moving in that direction. We also started a middle school student advisory that they've met once. They're going to meet quarterly. They're not going to meet as often as you guys. And we actually have high school students from the superintendent student advisory leading it. So the first one was housed at Burncoat Middle School and led by the Burncoat High School students of this advisory. And then the next one, I don't know where it's going to be housed, but maybe they'll be asking you. Mr. Encarnacion Rivera will be leading that, but always tapping into you. So that's one of the ways, is just having this kind of opportunity and conversation. And then we really try to get as many surveys out to you as possible without overloading you and overloading your teachers, right? So creating that opportunity, especially on high need topics, and we rely on our educators a lot, our classroom teachers, our counselors, to let us know what the voice of the student is too. So there's multiple layers. I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect way to do it, but the most important in our mind is the intentionality about, you know, we're here to meet your needs, and if we don't even talk to you about it, we can assume, but that doesn't mean that we're meeting the needs of children. So, so different layers, different ways of bringing you in, and just as important, not just bringing you in, but then when you give us feedback, what do we do with that? And then how do we circle back to you to let you know? So last year, as you know, you came up with questions to add to our interview process for our candidates. And we let you know what those questions are, and we've included them in our process. And so we just want to keep getting better at that as well.
Okay. Our second question is, what is your impression of the new Doherty? What 3 words sum up your reaction the first time you were in the finished building?
Oh my goodness. Well, if you haven't had a chance to come and see this spectacular building, you need to make time to come and see that. Talk to the principal or the front office so you can just observe what's here. When I walked in the first time, and I was in a couple of times before it was done, okay? So I'm gonna use the words that when it was all done and I got to walk in. First one is collegial. It feels like a college campus. When I walked in, it reminded me the cafeteria here of like the cafeteria I had when I went to college at UC Irvine in California. The way that the hallways are set up and the intentionality behind it. So that's the other word, is it's intentional. It is every single piece of this building was intentionally designed to prepare youth not only for what school looks like now, but what it may look like in the future, because we know it's finally shifting. So it's very intentional. And then I would say it's contemporary. So it doesn't look like any high school I went to or high schools that I visited along my 31 years. This high school looks very contemporary. It has, and yet it has the core elements that a classroom teacher needs in order to teach you. There are basic approaches to teaching that do not change, but then the intentionality and the contemporary side of the shop pieces that you have here. You have a student store. I mean, I did see a student store at Tech, so that was my first time going to student store. Again, that's college, that's collegial. What a great opportunity for you and for the future generations that will come here.
Definitely.
Knowing what you know now, and after both your professional and personal experiences, if you can go back in time and have a conversation with your high school self, what would you say?
I've played on this one a lot. Because first I want to say that it's so easy to do this Monday morning quarterbacking, right? Looking back and saying, I should have done this, I should have done this, I wish I would have known this, right? But life experiences is what lead you to where you are today. And even though those life experiences may be challenging, and I've had quite a few challenges over my lifetime, they still shape who I am today. And that's really important. So I think that's one of the things to tell myself, my high school self, is life's not going to be easy. You're not going to have this clear path all the time. It might look like that it's simple for some, or like everything's clear for some, and how come it's not like that for me? But there's a reason why. And I have a deep faith, and I believe that God puts you in experiences because he's preparing you for something else, right? So that's a big part of it, is I would remind my high school self that when I'm not by myself, that God is with me each and every day, even when I'm not paying attention, not listening. Have to remind my adult self that too. And then to enjoy those, to take the challenges and ask yourself as a young person, what am I to learn from this? And why is this happening to me, so that I can be a better, stronger adult in the future? I also would say to my high school self, enjoy the small stuff. Just enjoy it. When you've got that belly laugh that you just can't stop laughing, you don't even know why you're laughing anymore, kind of take that memory and put it in the back of your head, because they are so powerful to get through the more challenging things. And then don't overplan. I mean, like I'm type A, like nobody's business, right? Like I'm like, I've got to know this. I've got to plan. All that does is create anxiety in us, because life doesn't happen that way. So have enough of a plan that you don't feel like you're just floating around. And you've got to know yourself, right? So I've got to have enough of a plan. I've got stickies all the time. I've got, now it's not stickies, it's to-do notes on my cell phone, but that's how I work. So I would remind myself, have a plan, but be flexible and nimble enough so that you don't break. Because as I said, life's going to throw all kinds of things at you. And you need to be able to navigate that with the grace and the intellect that you have. And so those would be the reminders I would tell my young self. Easier said now, many decades later. And I don't know if I would have listened to my young self. I don't know if my young self would listen to my adult self now, but that's okay too.
Well, I totally agree. We had a snow day in December and a recent 2-hour delay. How do you make these decisions, especially between a full day out of school and a delay?
Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, just a reminder, born and raised in Southern California, this never happened in my world, first of all, right? Secondly, of course, we have fires that happen in California. That's a whole different thing. But here, first of all, I rely heavily on my team because they grew up here, so they know, right? But the core principles are keeping you safe. Can we get you to and from school safely? That's what this is about, because we can't educate you if you are not safe. And safety is not just physical safety, it's also how you feel, right? So there's a whole other side to that. But when we're looking at the weather, which people want me to have a crystal ball, I wish I could, but that's not the way things work. We have some different data sources that come in and let us know when the snow may fall for the snow days, how much snow may fall, and then we look at dismissal and arrival time. And we have, we're a big district, so I have multiple arrival and dismissal times. If there's going to be a heavy snowstorm that hits at a certain time and the roads aren't going to be clear, and I know I've got to get you home safely, even though it may not be snowing that early, right? That might be a 2-hour early out, depending on when the snow starts falling, right? Or it might need to be a full day. It's safety, and are the roads going to be safe for you to be in school buses, because 12,000 of you travel in a school bus and or car, and then about 12,000 of you walk. That's a lot of children out on the streets. When it comes to the delay, so we just had a cold day 2 days ago, right? No, yesterday. So yesterday was when I decided on the 2-hour delay. So that one was not snow related, it was just cold. And it was cold on Tuesday as well. And but we look and see what temperature, like how low can the temperature be and still have people outside before there's any concern about frostbite. And believe it or not, the temperature that we've had the last 2 days, you could be outside for 30 minutes and there would be no concern about frostbite. I know, it doesn't seem like it, but you know, we rely on the research and the science. So that's why we didn't call a delay start on Tuesday, and we made sure that our buildings had the heat, because that was the other thing, and we did all that on the Monday before when school was not in. There's a couple of classrooms that we had challenges with, but school-wide we were okay. And so I received quite a few emails on Tuesday from your peers, you know. You're just sharing with me their experience going to school that morning. And I can't change the cold, and I need to have, you know, clear parameters as to when we call a late start or a delayed start and when we don't. But so I didn't let the cold be the decider. But what I did, just like I do for the snow days, it's safety. And I had some students tell me, you know, especially high schoolers, they're walking to school and it's dark and they can't see the black ice. And so they slip on it and then they fall into the street. I don't want any child getting hit in the street. That's like not okay, right? So I said, if we have a 2-hour delay, it's not going to change the temperature. It's still cold, but at least they'll be walking in daylight and then they can see. So that was the decision on that day. So it always goes back to what's safe for children. It's hard on parents. It's not a perfect way to go about it, but at the end of the day, I have to say, if that was my baby, what would I want someone to decide to keep my child safe? So not easy, but safety. It's always about safety.
Yeah, and thank you for that 2-hour delay.
You're welcome.
And also, thank you, Dr. Menares, for joining us today. I enjoyed speaking with you. And thank you for watching the Doherty edition of Ask the Superintendent.
This is it for this edition of WPS News. For Doherty Memorial High School and WPS News, I'm Mamia Champong.
And I'm Mackenzie O'Brien.
From here,
anywhere,
together.